Okay, so welcome back. We left off talking a bit about how Shabbos is Me'ein Olam Haba. It's similar to the world to come. The Talmud says it's a taste of the world to come. So we'll hopefully tie that into today's discussion. But I want to go back to Erev Shabbos, to the eve of Shabbos, and examine some of what we do as Shabbos enters. And one of the most famous and well-known practices, of course, is to sing Shalom Aleichem, to sing a song welcoming the Shabbos angels. Seemingly, we'll talk, I guess, what exactly we're doing, or discuss a couple of ideas at least about it. This song is not that old. It's only a few hundred years old, maybe like 500 years old or so. So we're not talking about something that was enacted by the sages of the Talmud, by Chazal, or earlier by the Anshe Knesset Hagadola, the men of the Great Assembly. It's a relatively recent custom. But if we look at the language of it, it's actually pretty interesting, because we say Shalom Aleichem, peace be upon you, which is a greeting usually to the ministering angels sent by the King of Kings, and we say, come in peace, Bo'achem l'shalom, come in peace. Now, who are these angels that we're welcoming? Not clear. There is a passage in the Talmud, in the Gemara, in Shabbos, in Daf Kuf Yotes Amar Aleph 119a, where it talks about how there are angels that escort us home from shul on Friday night. So it could be referring to those angels. But whoever these angels are, we greet them and we say, come in peace. And then we say, Barchuni l'shalom, bless me with peace. This is actually a bit of a controversial line. Some don't say it. There's a whole discussion, which we'll leave for a different time, about praying to angels, asking angels for things. Some people are not too happy with the line where we ask the angels to bless us. Some take it out. Most, of course, have the custom to still recite it. And then we say Schem l'shalom, go in peace. And we say goodbye to the angels. So what's going on here? Because we just welcomed them. We said hello. We said come in peace. And even before we make Kiddush, before we get started with our Shabbos meal, we're already sending the angels off and we're saying goodbye. So what's going on here? Why are we saying goodbye to the angels? Probably the simplest answer is we're telling them now you should go in peace at the end of Shabbos, when Shabbos ends. But it's still curious why we would say it right now. So what's going on here? We first welcome the angels, come in peace, and then just a moment later we say Schem l'shalom, goodbye, see you later, and we're off to make Kiddush. So Reb Shimshon Pincus discusses this question, and first he quotes an answer from the Chafetz Chaim, Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan. And the Chafetz Chaim relates this to another encounter we have, or we know of, involving angels coming and going. And that is actually next week's Torah portion, Parashas Vayetze, where Jacob lies down to sleep and he has a dream, and on the dream there are angels. And the Torah describes that the angels there was a ladder, and on the ladder, Hinei Malachei Elokim, the angels of God, Olim v'Yordim bo. They were going up and coming down. Now, if these are angels of God, you would think that they would be coming down and then going up. What's or in general, what's the idea that they're both going up and coming down? What's going on with these angels? Are they just doing exercise up and down the ladder? So Rashi cites the Midrash that actually they were two different sets of angels, because Yaakov was leaving the land of Israel, and there were special angels that would escort him in Israel, and there were special angels that would escort him outside of Israel. And so as he's getting ready to leave the land of Israel, the angels that were going up the ladder were the Israeli angels, the ones that would escort him there, Israeli Secret Service, and the angels that were coming down the ladder were the ones that would continue to escort him when he leaves the land of Israel. So so the Chafetz Chaim says that that's perhaps what's going on here as well. We, although it may be presenting in different order, but we come home Friday night, and now we're going to make Kiddush. We're going to sanctify the Shabbos. We're bringing in the Shabbos, and as we bring in the Shabbos, we greet our new set of angels, the Shabbos angels, and we say goodbye to the weekday angels. So according to this, we have actually both, we have angels escorting us not only on Shabbos, but in the weekday, but it's a different group. There's a special, maybe more holy, a special set of angels specifically for Shabbos. And as Shabbos comes, we greet those angels and we say goodbye to the other angels. So we're not actually saying hello, goodbye to the same angels. They're different sets of angels that we are talking to.
Rabbi Shabbos, I have a question.
Yes.
There's
That's
a custom.
That's it. Hello.
The custom to say it 3 times each stanza.
Yeah.
What is? Some people don't follow that. Could you elaborate a little bit on this custom and why some do not accept the 3 times? Just say it once.
Right. So actually, right. I would ask it maybe differently. Why do people say it 3 times? Why not just say it once? Unless you know a reason to say it 3 times. But my custom is also to say it 3 times. Do you know why people say it 3 times?
No.
That's what I was asking.
Okay, no, the way you said it was why do people not accept the custom to say it 3 times? So my question is why do people accept the custom to say it 3 times?
Yeah.
And I don't know, actually. Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe I'll try to look into that. Why we say it 3 times?
Because you're still muted. Go ahead.
Maybe because of the Avos, Abraham,
Could be. We like the number 3 in Judaism because
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's the Chafetz Chaim's answer. That we're saying hello to the Shabbos angels and we're saying goodbye to the weekday angels. Reb Shimshon Pincus wants to suggest another answer, and he says as follows, and as I'll share in a moment, the idea that he's going to present actually exists in earlier sources, although not necessarily connected to Shalom Aleichem. But he suggests as follows. He says that we find an interesting thing by the Yom Kippur service. The Yom Kippur service was a very special, obviously Yom Kippur is a special and holy day. Nowadays, it's not quite the same as it was in temple times. There was a whole special service, which we now just read about, where the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, would go through a whole process and he would enter the Kodesh HaKadashim, the Holy of Holies, the one day a year. And the Torah actually says that no man may be in the Ohel Moed, and referring here to the deep part of the Ohel Moed, the Kodesh HaKadashim, the Holy of Holies. No man may be in there when he enters to atone until he comes out. And but the Midrash says that when we say no man may be there, we don't just mean no man like we think about it, but it means, and maybe they're bothered because it maybe from other places it's obvious that nobody else is going to be in there with him. So the Midrash says that even those who are described elsewhere as Pneihem Pnei Adam, that their faces are like the face of man, and that's a description of the angels. So not just Kol Adam, not just any man won't be in the Holy of Holies, but also those described as having a face of man, which is the angels. Again, whatever that means, they're a spiritual concept, but we're to picture them as having a face of man. So they also will not be in the Holy of Holies when the Kohen Gadol, when the high priest enters on Yom Kippur. And why is that? Why can nobody be there? Not even the angels. because it's a very special moment of yichud, of seclusion, of just the Kohen Gadol and God in the Holy of Holies at that moment, at this all-important moment of the year. And so he suggests that maybe that's the idea when it comes to Shabbos as well. When it comes to Shabbos, so it's true, the Gemara tells us, the Talmud tells us that there are angels that escort us home from shul on Shabbos. And we come home and we find that everything is prepared for Shabbos, all set. And we say to the angels that escort us, we say, Shalom Aleichem, we say, hello, welcome, come in peace. You can stay for a moment. And then we say, now it's time for Kiddush. And now we're going to begin Shabbos. And on Shabbos, this is a special time of just us and the Creator. It's a day of just the Jewish people and the Creator, and nobody else can be here. And so Tzeichem l'shalom, go in peace. Thank you for the escort, but go in peace. This is a day where it's just us and Hashem and God. And so when we say, they come home with us, we say Shalom Aleichem, we say come in peace. But once we're about to make Kiddush, then we say Tzeichem l'shalom, we say go in peace. Thank you for joining, but now it's just us. Yes, Robert.
I have a problem with that. That would seem to imply that it's not okay to have non-Jewish guests at Shabbos meals, which is certainly not the case.
Yeah, so that's a fair question. That is not the halacha and for Yom Tov it's different. It has to do with cooking, who you can cook for. Shabbos, there's no prohibition like that. There's no law like that. Okay, it's a fair point. So and you're right. There's no such law when it comes to Shabbos. So again, but you're right. We're not necessarily speaking in what's the strict halacha, what's the strict law, but what's the concept. Shabbos certainly is a day special for the Jewish people. A non-Jew is not allowed to observe Shabbos, actually. Somebody who's converting, they as they prepare for conversion, they cannot observe Shabbos completely. They have to make sure to violate Shabbos in some way. And so it's definitely a unique day. And really, we see that in the pasuk, in the verse that we're about to quote, which is where the Orach Chaim makes a similar point.
Rabbi?
Yes.
It's Linda this time. So these angels that accompany us home on Friday night, are they only there from shul to that, till after Shalom Aleichem with us, or are they sort of like guardian angels, are angels that, or is there such a thing as angels accompanying us during the week as well?
So, good question. Again, I don't know so much about angels. And it may depend on these answers. The Chafetz Chaim's answer definitely, implied that there are angels that accompany us during the week, and then there's special new angels that accompany us on Shabbos. The Rav Pinkus is suggesting that on Shabbos, maybe we said the angels wait outside. Like we don't want to say we give up their protection, but we have the special time where it's just us and God, and so they are not with us on Shabbos. They stay out, and I think really the idea is brought out more in the following source. Again, going earlier, if Rav Pinkus, was very recent. He passed away young, but he's basically a contemporary. But the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, the great Sephardic commentator, already alludes to this idea in his commentary in Parshas Kisisa. So the second source that I put on the source sheet is from Parshas Kisisa, famous verses because we say them in Kiddush, and it says, V'shamru v'nei Yisrael HaShabbos, right? That Israel should guard the Shabbos. And then in verse 17 there, it says, between me and the children of Israel, it is a sign. So it specifically says, who is this special sign between, who is Shabbos for? It's between me and the children of Israel. And I think, again, the simplest reading of this verse, and that's how the medieval commentary, the Chizkuni, explains it, is it's a special day between me and the Jewish people as opposed to the non-Jewish people. It's a special day, a special gift from God to the Jewish people, which is its own discussion for a different day. But the Or HaChaim says, to our point, that actually, who's it coming to exclude? It's between me and the Jewish people, and as opposed to the angels. It's not a day for the angels. The way the Or HaChaim says it is, there's nobody with us. There's nobody else in this olam, in this world. And he's actually referring back to the previous verse, where it says that it is a bris olam, an everlasting covenant. But in one interpretation, he understands that that word olam to relate back to last week's topic for us, the idea of me'ein olam haba, that Shabbos is a taste of the world to come. And the Or HaChaim quotes a midrash that basically says that in the world to come, even the angels aren't going to be there with us. We're going to have, mankind has a place in the world to come prepared for them. That's a special section, that even the angels won't have access to, VIP. So putting this all together, he says that we refer here to a bris olam, a everlasting covenant, and then we say it's meaning, but a reference to the idea that Shabbos is a taste of the world to come. It's the special moment, and in that taste of the world to come is a place where we bask in the presence of God, and just us, just the souls of mankind, and not a place for angels. And on Shabbos, which is a taste of that, it's the same thing. It's Beini uvein bnei Yisrael. It's between me and the children of Israel, and it's not a place where there are angels. So he doesn't talk about Shalom Aleichem, but Rav Pinkus, I saw another work that also made this connection, says that this may be the explanation for telling the angels, Tzeistem L'Shalom, wishing them well, and saying goodbye, because now we're going to be secluded with God. And again, this really relates to this idea that Shabbos is a piece of the world to come. The world to come is just us and God, the way Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto talks about it at the beginning of Mesilas Yesharim, right? It's a place where we are nanim miziv hashtina. We bask in the shine of God's presence. That's what the world to come is. And depending on how well we prepare for it, we'll experience it to a different degree. But the ultimate reward is to experience God. And on Shabbos, we get a little taste of that. We get a little taste of that, of having God in our presence, and it's just us, nobody else. It's a yichud, it's seclusion. And so when we say Tzeistem L'Shalom, we're saying not even angels are going to be here with us when we are with God on Shabbos. So that's sort of at the end of the process of preparation for Shabbos. But the truth is that much of the lead up, even before that, also relates to this general concept. And so it's interesting that there's a lot of preparation for Shabbos. So we talked about how we prepare for Shabbos just like we prepare for the world to come, right? And there's a lesson in that once Shabbos starts, there are many things we no longer could do. Yeah, you got to prepare it for before. Whoever prepares before Shabbos will be able to enjoy it on Shabbos. If you cook before Shabbos, you can eat cooked food on Shabbos. If you don't cook before Shabbos, you can't eat cooked food on Shabbos. And that's a metaphor for the world to come, that whatever we prepare in advance, we'll be able to experience the world to come. You can't, once you get there, you can't prepare anything more. But more than that, yes, Robert.
I mean, this is a side issue that we shouldn't get into, but I have a real
We
problem
will
with that.
anyways.
What?
But we will anyways.
I have a real problem with the whole notion that once this life is over, that we're stuck. You can't do you can't do mitzvahs anymore because mitzvahs are in this world. But the notion that we have this life to prepare for Olam Haba, and then once we're in Olam Haba, we're just stuck where we are. We can't do anything to improve ourselves. That makes absolutely no sense to me. Why would Hashem create things so that we have a finite, bounded opportunity to get a little bit of an infinite possible good?
Okay,
like
that's a very deep question.
not in a simple question, but I felt compelled to raise that.
Okay, I
I'm
don't
not
think
expecting you to
that.
answer that on even 2 feet, let alone 1 foot.
Okay, I don't think the idea is debated by anyone, whether it's the case or not. But the why is a question. I don't know if it's a question we can really ask, or know the answer to. But okay, fair enough. So when it comes to Shabbos, first of all, we have this concept. Again, maybe more developed later in the last 500 years or so, but already really, as we'll see, referenced and hinted to in the Talmud, of Kabbalah Shabbos, of receiving Shabbos, and we don't have that by other holidays, by Yom Tov, there's no Kabbalas Yom Tov, there's no special prayers or just things we do to receive the Yontif. Yes, you have to accept the holiday upon yourself, maybe, but we don't have this whole process that we go through and special songs and things like that. So it's almost like we need to welcome the Shabbos, and this is already, even though it's the idea of the Kabbalah Shabbos service that we have Friday night is relatively new, again, 500 years old. These things were initiated really in Sfat in the 15th, 16th century, as well as Shalom Aleichem. But the Gemara, the Talmud in Shabbos already has ideas relating to this. If you look on the source sheet, source 3, it says Rabbi Chanina would wrap himself in his garment and stand at nightfall on Shabbat Eve and say, "Come and we will go out to greet Shabbat the Queen." So he's doing he's going out to greet Shabbos. Rabbi Yanai put on his garment on Shabbat Eve, and it said, enter, O bride, boi kala, which those words were borrowed from the Talmud and put into the Lichadodi prayer, which was written by Reb Shlomo Alkabetz, who wrote his name into Lichadodi. And he was one of those, Tzfas rabbis in the 15th, 16th century, authored Lichadodi. But in Lichadodi, we say, boi kala, come the bride of Shabbos, come the bride of Shabbos. And it comes from the Talmud here. And so we have this in the Gemara and the Talmud here. There's this idea we go out to greet the Shabbos and we say special things, welcome Shabbos. And at the end of Shabbos, we have something called a Milava Malka, where we escort the queen. That's what Milava Malka means. It's a special meal one's supposed to eat after Shabbos to escort Shabbos out, as if Shabbos needs to be welcomed, Shabbos needs to be escorted out. It's almost like we're personifying Shabbos, as if Shabbos is this person, and that we have to welcome, we have to escort them out, and we find a similar thing in the Midrash. The Midrash talks about how Shabbos said to God, everybody has a partner except me. Sunday has Monday, Tuesday has Wednesday, Thursday has Friday, but Shabbos, number 7, seventh day, has no partner. So God says, don't worry. Your partner will be the Jewish people. So that's the Midrash. So again, this almost I don't know if the right word is personification, might mean something else, but of Shabbos, giving it a personage. And And so we have that, Shabbos enters and we welcome it. Shabbos leaves and we escort it out. Shabbos has wishes that has claims that what's fair and what's not. And in addition, we know we're supposed to honor the Shabbos. There's the concept of honoring Shabbos. And like we honor parents and we honor people, but we have to honor Shabbos. And we're not supposed to profane the Shabbos. I don't just mean by desecrating it, like transgressing one of the prohibitions, but just the way that we treat Shabbos, almost like Shabbos is a living being, a living person. And why is that? And again, these are specific things to Shabbos that we don't find by other holidays. It's almost, says Reb Pinkus, like Shabbos is a guest in our house. Like we're having a guest over, we have to welcome them, we have to escort them out, we have to honor them, etc. So who is this Shabbos guest? So the way he says it is, the question begs not just what is Shabbos, but who is Shabbos? Who is this Shabbos guest? And the answer is, as we have alluded to, the Shabbos guest is really the presence of God. It's the Shekhinah. It's God. It's God. The special day where we get to seclude ourselves with God. God is our guest on Shabbos, and that's who we're welcoming. And there's a very specific way that we greet God's presence that on Shabbos. And fascinatingly, we can learn how we're supposed to welcome the presence of God actually from the Torah, and the things that we do match up to the way they welcome the presence of God at Mount Sinai. If we look in Shemos chapter 19, which is right before the giving of the Torah, so there was a process of preparation for God coming to give the people the Torah, or God coming to, we'll call it, to reveal himself, or the revelation at Sinai. And so let's read a few verses. So in Shemos chapter 19, bottom source of page 1, it says, Moshe came and summoned the elders of Israel and placed before them all these words that the Lord had commanded him. So God gave him commands, and he then gave them to the people. Verse 9, and the Lord said to Moses, behold, I am coming to you in the thickness of the cloud, in order that the people hear when I speak to you, and they will also believe in you forever. And Moshe relayed the words of the people to the Lord, so he talked to them, they went back. God says, I'm coming, they're going to hear me speak when I speak to you. And verse 10, and the Lord said to Moshe, go to the people and prepare them today and tomorrow, and they shall wash their garments. So they're to prepare by washing their garments. And then he says, verse 11, and they shall be prepared for the third day. For on the third day, the Lord will descend before the eyes of all the people upon Mount Sinai. So on the third day, God's presence is going to come. Third day from then, God's presence is going to come down onto Mount Sinai. So Moshe descended from the mountain to the people, and he prepared the people, and they washed their garments. He said to the people, be ready for 3 days. Do not go near a woman, meaning don't have relations. That was something that was specific to that time. And then it says, it came to pass on the third day, when it was morning, that there were thunderclaps and lightning flashes, and a thick cloud was upon the mountain, and the very powerful blast of shofar, and the entire nation that was in the camp shuddered. And verse 17, Moshe brought the people out toward God from the camp, and they stood at the bottom of the mountain. So we have here a number of different steps in the preparation for receiving God's presence. Number one, let's start from verse 11, maybe. In number 1, it says, be prepared for the third day. So we have this general concept of hachana, of preparing. Be prepared for this day. We have something more specific in verse 14, which is wash their garments. they should be wearing nice, clean garments. And then we have in verse 17 that Moshe brought the people out toward God from the camp. So there's this going out to greet the presence of God. Now, all of these are in preparation for God's presence to come and dwell amongst the people for the revelation at Sinai. So the Brisker of Yitzchak Zev Soloveitchik relates this preparation to the preparation that we do for Shabbos. And he points out that we do very similar things in preparing for Shabbos. And actually, if you read from the Rambam, from Maimonides, the way that he records the laws in terms of how to prepare for Shabbos, we see these three ideas reflected in our preparation for Shabbos. So the Rambam says as follows. This is in chapter 30 of the Laws of Shabbos. He says as follows. There are 4 dimensions to the observance of Shabbos. 2 originating in the Torah and 2 originating in the words of our sages, which are giving exposition by the prophets. So 4 different dimensions to observing Shabbos. The 2 dimensions originating in the Torah are the commandments: remember the Shabbos day and observe the Shabbos day. So these are found in the 10 commandments. One time it says, in the first time the 10 commandments appear, it says, Zachor es Yom HaShabbos, remember the Shabbos. And the second time in Parshas Va'eschanan, in the book of Devarim, when the 10 commandments are repeated, instead of saying remember the Shabbos, Zachor, it says Shamor, observe, guard the Shabbos. The sages teach us actually God said both at the same time. And we'll probably discuss that more at length in a later class. But those are the 2 positive, or actually not necessarily positive, two commandments, 2 dimensions of Shabbos that are biblical. There's remembering the Shabbos, and there's guarding the Shabbos. And then he goes on, he says the 2 dimensions giving exposition by the prophets are honor and pleasure, kavod and oneg, to honor the Shabbos and to enjoy it, to take pleasure in the Shabbos. And this is learned from a verse in Yeshaya. In Isaiah, it says, V'karasa la-Shabbos oneg, v'likdosh Hashem mechubad. You should call the Sabbath a delight, an oneg, and it should be sanctified and honored. And so we learn from there that Shabbos should both be a delight, we should have oneg Shabbos, and it should be, and we should honor the Shabbos. What is meant by honor? The Rambam, Maimonides, continues and asks, this refers to our sage's statement that it is a mitzvah for a person to wash his face, his hands, and his feet in hot water on Friday in honor of the Shabbos. He should wrap himself in tzitzits and sit with proper respect, waiting to receive the Shabbos as one goes out to greet a king. The sages of the former generations would gather their students together on Friday, wrap themselves in fine robes, and say, come, let us go out and greet the Shabbos, the king. Now, if we read this carefully, we see that there's maybe a lot more to Kabbalah Shabbos, to welcoming the Shabbos, than we realize, and maybe not everybody's doing it exactly right, including myself. The way the Rambam says it, the way he says it is, one should sit with proper respect, waiting to receive the Shabbos as one goes out to greet a king. So part of welcoming the Shabbos, we have to realize Shabbos is coming. Shabbos means God's presence is coming to dwell with us in a way, in a different way than during the week. And if we're to prepare to greet, to welcome God's presence, we have to be ready. We have to be waiting. We have to be waiting with anticipation for Shabbos to come in. And I think maybe that gets lost. My guess is that this is actually the intent. This is actually the intent of Kabbalah Shabbos, of welcoming the Shabbos, having a service of Kabbalah Shabbos is really to get us in the mindset of, we're doing something important here. We're welcoming the Shabbos. I think maybe it gets a little bit lost in translation, in the process. But that's how we're supposed to get ready for Shabbos. We're supposed to be ready and waiting. And so there's the stage of hachana, preparing before, of having everything prepared before, and then being ready. Really, the way it says it in the verse, again, going back up to the verses in Shmos, in Parashas Yisro, verse 11, on the top of page 2 of the source sheet, and they shall be prepared for the third day. You should be prepared. In the Hebrew, it's hayu nechonim. It means like you should be anticipating. You should be anticipating the third day. Everything should be done. You should be waiting for it to come, because the God's presence is coming. The Shekhinah is coming. So we should be waiting with anticipation. Yes, the Rambam does say you should sit and wait. Should we be standing and waiting? Fair question. I guess there's different ways to wait, but he thinks sitting. Practically, the custom is that at the end of Lichadodi, when we say Bawi Kala, we actually do stand up and we turn even towards the door, as if like we're welcoming the Shabbos Queen, we're welcoming the presence of God. So that's so at that point we do actually stand up, and that's again similar to as was described in the Gemara, where Rabbi Yanai would he would say this, but actually Rabbi Chanina would stand and say, "Come, we will go out to greet the Shabbos." That's, I think, the idea of standing and turning towards the door. We're not going to walk out, but we're almost, ready to walk out to greet the Shabbos as it comes in. So we have this idea of being ready and waiting with anticipation, and then he continues. Number in halacha 3, the third law of the Rambam over here. Among the ways of honoring the Sabbath, the Shabbos is wearing a clean garment. One Shabbos garment should not resemble one's weekday clothes. So again, straight out of the Torah, straight out of the preparation to greet the Shekhinah, to greet God's presence at Sinai, is to have nice clothes on, to at least clean our clothes. Thank God we can afford to have even special Shabbos clothes. So to dress nicely for Shabbos, that's learned from the revelation that's what they were to do. And then the last thing they did in verse 17, it says Moshe brought the people out toward God. So it's not just to wait with anticipation, but it's to like go out and welcome the Shabbos. And that the Rambam also refers to at the end of halacha 2. The sages of the former generations would gather their students together on Friday, wrap themselves in fine robes, and say, "Come, let us go out and greet the Shabbos, the king." Just like Moshe took the Jewish people out towards the mountain to be ready and to greet the Shabbos. So the process of preparing for Shabbos that we do follows to the T almost, or that we could be doing. Could follow to the T the process of preparing for God's presence to come at Sinai. It involves being ready and anticipating, waiting with anticipation for the Shabbos to come, and dressing up in nice clothes and clean clothes to be ready to greet God's presence, and even maybe going out a bit. Again, I think we accomplish that by turning towards the door and almost going out, but the idea is we're not just anticipating, but we're looking, we're ready to even walk out to greet the Shabbos. And again, it's because Shabbos is this very special day. This personification of Shabbos coming on a deeper level it's the day that we have a special meeting, a special seclusion with God's presence. It's just us. It's just us and God, no angels on this day. And so while at the beginning of Shabbos, as we're ready, as we've done all these preparations, we'd say Tzeichem L'Shalom. We wish the angels well. We wish them off, and then it's just us. And we we go through all these preparations. It's the and like the Orach Chaim referenced, the idea of having a day that's just us and God again relates back to the idea that Shabbos is this taste of the world to come. It's a taste of the world to come. That's the world to come is. The world to come is a Yom Shekulo Shabbos. It's a day that's all Shabbos. That's and it's a day that it's a place that where our souls bask in the presence of God, and we got a little bit of that on Shabbos. So it's upon us to prepare for that concept, to be ready, to be waiting as Shabbos comes in. There are numerous other things that we do that relate or could relate to this idea, but I think we'll leave those for another time. We'll either we will discuss them next time or we'll move on to something else. But I think we'll hold it there. Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Well
welcome.
done. Thank you.